I'm Adam Martin, Communications Specialist at EnergyUnited. I'm here today with Jimmy Brown, Manager of Maintenance Services, to share some helpful and important information about our Integrated Vegetation Management Program. Jimmy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the invite. My name is Jimmy Brown, Manager of Maintenance Services for EnergyUnited. Part of their vegetation management staff. We have five employees on our staff at this time. Currently, right now we have our map of our North Carolina. This is where EnergyUnited is located. We provide service in and out of 19 counties in North Carolina. We maintain 11,500 miles of distribution, a little over 200 miles of transmission lines. We have 110,000 members, and our current right-of-way schedule is 6.5 years. And if we divide this out, we have a little over right at 9.36 members per mile. Environmental statement. This is very important for any utility that has vegetation management. EnergyUnited is challenged with providing safe and reliable service to our members while protecting the environment for today and future generations. EnergyUnited will seek to achieve environmental excellence in maintenance of all distribution transmission facilities. The cooperative will continue to promote environmental stewardship by the employees and be a leader in protecting and enhancing the environment.
So, Jimmy, that's very interesting to hear, and it's great to hear that EnergyUnited is committed to not just maintaining its right-of-ways, but also doing so in an environmentally responsible way. So could you give us an example, perhaps, of some considerations that our crews would various right-of-way situations?
That's a good question, Adam. As far as the utility, a lot of people are always watching what we do in our work, and we're always trying to look out for the wildlife and for the environment. Where this really plays important essence is with our herbicide application. We're always trying to figure out a way to improve, and by doing this, we're on the front line of doing our herbicide application. We're always trying to preserve any of the wildflowers, floral, and by doing that, we are helping the wildlife, because if we can keep the brush low, that means we don't have to use our bush hogs to cut the right away. We can use a herbicide application and have a better control of the low growth items, which is better for wildlife. We can maintain better for deer, for turkeys, for rabbits, for all kind of wildlife habitat.
So it does sound like then that you have a lot of tools that you can take advantage of in those situations to make the best decision for our members from not just a reliability standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint.
That is correct, yes. Adam, this is another question we get quite a bit from landowners and people is what is an easement and why is it important? But all utilities, we have to have an easement that is at least a legal designation on the land or property where the property owner grants each utility company the rights and physical access to construct and maintain the lines. So everywhere we have power lines, we have easements, and this is standard for all utilities. Necessary. Well, why? Allows members to benefit from safe, reliable, economical service, reduce the cost of constructing facilities by allowing a more uniform route or path for power line, and protects the cooperative's rights to provide reliable service to our members. What does a VM program look like? Historically, most utilities relied solely for years on mechanical means or their main easements just to keep the brush clear and result in interruptions to service or hinder the restoration of service. This includes the following: bucket trimming, mechanical mowing, conventional crews, or hand cutting. And we just got a few photos here to go along with some of the things we were talking about. So here we have some bucket trimming. This is just where the individuals are working from aerial buckets. Now we got to remember all these power lines are energized, so they have to use precaution not to get into the line. And so we have an interruption of service, and all our crews are line clearance certified. So it means they are trained to work around energized power lines. This is just another way of how we do our trimming. This is mechanical trimming, where we can access a lot of these rural right of ways or where we can get our machines in. We'll use mechanical trimmers. It's safer, it's faster, and it's more economical just to help keep the power lines clear. Mechanical mowing, this is just one of our type bush hogs, or more or less it's a skid steer mower, but where we leave debris on cross country lines or in unmaintained areas, we can use these tractors just to help chip up and clean up the brush. And we still have to use conventional crews. If you look there on the left, you can see we have a climber in the top of a tree. And some areas we can't get buckets to, so we have to resort back to the guys climbing the trees. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. If we have just a tree that, or a limb maybe that's fell on the line, it's not a problem. We can, if we can get our crews in their equipment, we can get those situations cleared up pretty quick. If we run into a situation where we've got a large tree and maybe it's got the primary wire conductor pinned to the ground and it's a large tree, maybe 36 inches or bigger, we can get those down. It just takes a little bit of time because the wire is it's all under stress, and we've got to remove it very slowly. If you don't, then there's a good chance somebody could get injured.
And that's certainly, I'm sure, where training and those certifications come into play and are very useful.
Yes, you're correct. What does an IVM program look like? An IVM program with general definition utilizes mechanical, cultural, chemical, biological treatment means to establish a low-growing stable plant community in hopes of resisting invasion of tall-growing tree and woody brush species that would have otherwise interfered with our ability to provide safe, reliable, cost-effective service. And basically what we're doing here is with our herbicide, all we were trying to do is just eliminate the undesirable species, but yet allow the grass, the flowers, the forbs, anything else to grow, which is very crucial, very critical for wildlife habitat and for the environment. We are not there to kill everything. We are just want to eliminate certain items. IVM methods and how we apply them: mechanical, solidical trimming based on right-of-way width and tree species found in our system adds values to our program, will always be necessary. Chemical, a low-volume herbicide application that targets specific species that are incompatible with overhead power lines. Adds high value to our program by essentially eliminating the need to mechanically mow the floors outside of our normal cycle. Cultural, most used in agriculture setting, for example, crop rotation, avoiding overgrazing, soil amendment. And this really doesn't work for electric utility, because if it is, that would be run into more of a fire type program. Biological technique that utilizes natural enemies of the targeted species. For example, kudzu. People use goats, or how do we control kudzu?
So, Jimmy, what is like the most common misconception that you hear from the members or from community members surrounding any of these strategies that we may use to maintain our rights of way?
Well, that's a good question, man. We get a lot of current concerns and questions. Some of our questions go back to people, why are we trimming trees? And unfortunately, we have to trim trees that as they start getting close to the power lines. So we like to trim them before they get into power lines for several reasons. One is safety, and the second one is reliability for the electric service. We run crews. We have to trim all 12 months a year just to maintain some type of schedule, because if in the summer months we have to deal with hurricanes, tornadoes, thunderstorms, in the winter we have to deal with ice, snow, and freezing rain. So we have to be constantly looking at our trees, looking at our right of way and keeping them clear. Some people don't want us trimming trees because they think we don't have permission or don't have right of way, but this is something that just has to be done. Another thing is herbicides. There's a lot of questions and concerns about herbicides, and we fully understand that, and we respect everybody, but that's something that we have to use as just another tool that we use for our vegetation management. All our herbicides are EPA approved, and we work with a lot of outside organizations to promote positive herbicide application, especially with the wildlife and the environment. So a lot of places where we have used our herbicide, we have found numerous and endangered plants over the years. So we work with a lot of outside organizations to preserve and protect these species.
So even though we have several different tools here that are available to help us maintain our right-of-ways, and each has its own use and application, they may all be different, but they're all consistent with that environmental statement that we shared at the beginning of the presentation, and consider of not just what's best for our members in terms of reliability, but also what's best in terms of preserving our environmental conditions that are favorable.
That's correct, yes. So here's just a good picture of where we have one of our three-phase line that goes across country. It's our low volume herbicide application. We're always looking at new herbicides, new products that's on the market. We apply selectively to target certain species. We minimize our application as far as the amount of herbicide that we use. And by doing it correctly, we promote vegetation species that are diverse for these regions. And all we're trying to do really is decrease the stem count. So here, you can tell where this goes through some forestry property, and over a couple applications of herbicide over a couple years, we have really reduced the brush density, and we pretty much got just basically a grass environment here, which was excellent for a right-of-way corridor, and this is nothing but excellent for wildlife habitat, because wildlife will come out of the woods, they'll get in these right-of-ways, and they'll use these right-of-way corridors to travel, but when it's all said and done, they jump back in the woods to hide, or a lot of animals use some of this for grazing for food. Here's just an application where we done some side-by-side with natural regeneration. So you can see a lot of that along the edge of the road where the fence is. It has pretty much grown back, and then this other, we've resprayed it at a later date. But what we're doing here is, we're just targeting to eliminate certain species, but we're not there to eliminate the grass or the forage or any looms. We want this to grow, stay green, and then also by doing that, we have no erosion issues. But bottom line, we are reducing the stem count for undesirable species. Here, Adam, we have a very interesting photograph where EnergyUnited has some power lines, and we have another utility that has some power lines that are adjacent to us. So we've done a couple of herbicides application here, just trying to see how our work compares with some other utilities, and some utilities spray more than others, which is no problem. But on the left side, we treated this three-phase corridor in 2002. And then we treated again in 2005, and now you see how it is in 2008. So the way we look at this, the growth is very low, the dense is very minimal compared to what is on the right side. And the reason we like this, we still have growth on the floor, but yet if we had to access this power line for any kind of storm restoration or outage, our crews could totally get in there and speed up the outage restoration versus trying to work on those lines on the right side, because if you're trying to get into there, if you couldn't drive across it, then the guys would have to get chainsaws, or we'd have to bring in some crews to handcuff the underbrush before the crews could get in to maintain the outage.
Yeah, definitely a lot there to appreciate, Jimmy. From our crew's perspective, any of our linemen that are responding to a situation, a fault that's identified along that right of way, clearly makes their job a lot easier, like you said. But also from the member's perspective, that ability for them to access the power lines in those situations ensures that we're able to get their lights on a lot quicker. So a lot to appreciate about this picture.
The picture here says a whole lot. Here we got, Adam, just another place where we've been trying to watch this and just try to see how our growth is. And this is a hard area to work anyway, because we got the edge of the road. The state's got the guardrail, and we're in a blind spot on that curve. But here was a spot that was not treated without herbicides for several years, so it was always hand cut. And if you see the picture on the right, where this is a place where some of the species were hand cut, and then once you hand cut them, all they'll do is keep resprouting. When they resprout, they keep coming back more and more and heavier. So, in time, once we cut this will be another area that we will identify for our herbicide application. And all it will do is reduce the stem count. Here we have another picture of, we all know that as we ride across the countryside every day, we see kudzu. Everybody's very familiar with kudzu. It was brought into the United States in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And the primary purpose for it was brought in for erosion control. But over the years, it's become more of a nuisance to everybody than what it has been a positive impact. So each year we've got certain areas that we have to target for kudzu control, and we have an application that we use for kudzu treatment. And you can see on the left how it was done at one time, and then here it is on the right 1 year later, where we do a herbicide application just to control kudzu. And you can see on the photos there, all the grass there was not disturbed. There's nothing dying there. So it's very critical that we maintain that corridor, everything good except just for the kudzu. But now the kudzu will come back. It gets off right away, and it'll come back within about 2 years. And this is just part of our purpose of why we have multiple objectives for our herbicide application. The picture on the top left is just one of our distribution lines, and you can see where it has been used for herbicide application. So we've got a very good right-of-way corridor. The picture in the middle there, the sunflower, this is a butterfly, and it's on a endangered plant that we found on the EnergyUnited right-of-way corridor. It's a Sawisa sunflower. It is a federally endangered species. The picture on the right is just some butterflies that's in the right-of-way corridor after we have sprayed. And bottom line is, we're just trying to provide service, reliable vegetation control, cost saving to our members. So what can members do to help us? Adam, this is just one thing we're always trying to educate our members and spend time talking to people. Is the main thing is just planting the right tree in the right location. If you have a power line on your property, whether it's in front of your house, beside or the back, we just try to educate people just to do not plant something that will grow tall. So we got to plant the right species under the power line or at the right spot, or either don't plant it under the power line. So if you've got a power line, you may want to plant a dogwood or crepe myrtle, but just don't plant a large oak or maple, something that will grow into the power line. Unfortunately, if we do, then those trees will just have to be continued trimming, and there's just better ways we can do that and work with our members.
So Jimmy, if I'm a member and I see this graph that's provided, and it just dawns on me, unfortunately, I didn't see this before I decided to plant a tree on my property. And my first thought is, whoops, I've planted something that when at its mature height will become a problem in the future. It's not quite there yet, but it will be based on this graph. So what's the best thing I can do in that situation?
Well, it all depends on the tree species. If you decided maybe it was the wrong tree, you've got a couple options. You as the property owner can go ahead and maybe try to relocate that tree or move it. If it's gotten too tall, maybe you need to cut it down or contact your utility and see if they'll cut the tree down. But, by leaving it there, the only thing is it'll be trimmed today and it will have to continue trimming in years to come. So that's why it's always just to make sure you got the right tree for the right location, and let's see what it's going to mature at. And if you ever have any questions about the right tree to plant, then just, if you would, just please contact your cooperative and we can give you some guidance. And here, back to what you were talking about, Adam, that we just encourage property owners just to plant the right tree at the right spot. So here we have some crepe myrtles and some dogwoods that are planted underneath our power line. These trees will never impact the power line, and the property owners are happy because they don't have to trim, and your cooperative is happy because we don't have to trim, and it's just more cost efficient, and we don't have to make a mess in your yard. And another thing here, what we have, Adam, just encouraging people that, everybody's always planting trees. It doesn't matter if you have an overhead power line or underground power line in your yard. We just always encourage everybody to contact 811 before you plant anything in your yard. Can always save a problem, save an outage, and save anybody from getting hurt. So it's just one more critical step to do before you start planting trees. And as we said before, anytime if you've want to plant some trees in your yard, just always contact your cooperative. We can have somebody to come by there and talk to you, try to give you some referral information for the trees and the mature height. And we can also give you the height of the power line, so we can work together to achieve the right tree for that right location. Some opportunities that we're looking at the cooperative here for our outage data and trees, that we're trying to improve our outage data that we collect moving forward. We're always updating our right-of-way section of our website, and we're evaluating a tree replacement or tree removable program, just trying to encourage to get some of these target trees that's underneath the power lines that's just was not a favorable tree. So I appreciate your time, Adam. If you have any questions, just let us know.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate all this great information. This is so important to see that EnergyUnited, as an electric cooperative, member-owned electric cooperative, that you're not just looking at this from one perspective, you're looking at all perspectives that are important to our members, preserving environmental conditions in our communities that are favorable, the natural beauty of each of our communities, and obviously preserving the priorities that our members have come to expect with service reliability and quality as well. So thank you so much for providing this information. It's great to see all the great work that's going on at EnergyUnited behind the scenes and in our communities. Thank you, Jimmy.
Appreciate your time, Adam. Thanks for inviting us.